Once you have the hang of reselling, you know what you're doing, and you're making consistent sales on one platform, the next best thing for you to do is to take all of those listings you have up for sale and copy them or cross post them, as we resellers like to say, to more selling platforms. That's going to increase their visibility. It's going to bring you more potential buyers, and it will for sure lead to more sales for you. But copying your images, your titles, descriptions, and all of that other information can be very time consuming, which is why I like to use List Perfectly to cross post my items instead. With that List Perfectly software, I'm able to move my listings from platform to platform in bulk very quickly. And in today's video, I'm going to tell you every single thing you need to know to get started using List Perfectly. The first thing you have to do is decide which List Perfectly plan you want to go with. So let's start there with pricing and plans. To talk about all of your price options and the plans available, I'm going to be referencing List Perfectly's pricing page. I'm going to leave it linked in the description, and I will also be sharing my screen that I'm seeing on my phone right here. Once we move on to the actual tutorial, I'll move on to my computer so you can see it bigger in full view mode and you're able to follow along a lot better. For now, let's talk about what your options are. List Perfectly does have 3 different plans to choose from, although they did add a 4th one not that long ago, but we'll get into that shortly. First up, the very beginner plan is called the Simple Plan. This one here you can get for $29 a month. Then they have the Business Plan for $49 a month and the Pro Plan for $69 a month. And then that 4th plan that they just added is called Pro Plus. That one says $0 on it because in order to sign up for this Pro Plus plan, you have to sign up for the regular Pro plan for $69 a month first. Once you sign up for that one, you're able to upgrade to that Pro Plus at no extra charge. You won't have to pay anything extra. So that is the deal till the end of 2024. After that, I'm sure List Perfectly is going to put an exact price on this Pro Plus. But since right now it's still in beta testing, it's brand new, they're still testing some things out, you're able to use it for free, at least for now. With this Pro Plus plan, you're able to get everything you get with the regular Pro $69 a month plan, plus all of these bold features that you see listed out in a bullet format right here. And to see what does come with each plan, each of the other 3 base plans, you can keep scrolling down and eventually you'll hit this pricing chart. It's divided into 4 separate columns. The first column lists out every single feature List Perfectly has available for you. The next 3 columns are basically just the 3 plans divided out. Below each plan, you can see just a short snippet letting you know what's included there. With the Simple Plan, for example, you get just the basics. With the Business, it's for you to grow faster with bulk tools and enhanced features. And then the Pro Plan is to accelerate your business growth with all the features they have available. And I'm sure once the Pro Plus plan is a more permanent addition to the plans available, they will add it to this chart. But for now, it's not here. Below each plan, if it has a check mark, that means that that plan will come with that feature. There's pretty much green check marks all throughout for all 3 plans. It's when you get closer to the bottom that you start seeing the real differentiating factors among all of these plans. Right here, for example, we start getting some X's, and that's where things really start to change. Right beside some of the features, there is a question mark little circle icon which you can click to get more information of what that feature even is. If you don't know what something means, click that question mark, learn about it, look through this chart to make your final decision, because it's all going to depend on your needs and what stage you are in your reselling business right now. Whatever plan you decide to go with is going to be a personal decision at the end of the day, but I did want to at least give you my recommendations here and tell you what I think you should do. If you're just a beginner with just like 150, maybe up to 200 listings right now, the best plan for you is it's probably going to be that simple, cheaper plan. With that simple plan, you probably are going to have to do some of the things manually, but since you're just starting, you won't be having a lot of activity going on your platforms, so it won't be that time consuming at the end of it all. And even so, having List Perfectly, even with that cheaper plan, you're still going to be able to do all of those manual things much faster than if you didn't have List Perfectly at all. Another reason I recommend for you to start with that simple plan and then go up from there as needed is because with that Pro Plus plan or even the regular Pro plan, the listing pages are very complex. It's going to be a lot of buttons, a lot of features, a lot of things you're going to have to learn about. And for beginners, that can get very overwhelming and confusing. So that's why I think it's best to start with that simple plan, get the hang of that. It'll also give you time to keep growing your reselling business so that you can invest more and move on to the higher, more expensive plans. Do what you think is best for you, but that's how I have gone about it. I started with the simple and been moving up slowly from there. If you're still having issues deciding which plan is going to be best for you right now, List Perfectly does have something called the Plan Advisor to help guide you to choosing the one that's going to work the best. To use that tool, right above the pricing chart, there is a green button that says Plan Advisor. Click on that and it's going to ask you a series of questions, so just go ahead and answer with the best answer possible. And once you answer all of those questions, List Perfectly is going to tell you which plan they think is going to work the best for you depending on the answers you gave them. Once you've made your final decision, go ahead and click that orange button that says sign up right below the plan you decided to go with. Here you're going to enter your payment details, and there is also a box that asks for a coupon code. My code is the Mom Boss, capital, all one word, and that's going to get you 30% off your first month. So if you want to use that, go ahead and add it there on the coupon code box, enter your payment details, and click sign up. We are going to jump into what happens next from here and how to get started using List Perfectly. Going to go to my computer to show you all of that, but there is something you have to understand before we go there, and that is that there is 4 different ways for you to use List Perfectly. The first way is online. You go to listperfectly.com on your computer. There you can cross list your items, edit, and just manage your inventory in so many different ways. The second way is right from your phone. Also on listperfectly.com, you sign in, and from your phone you can add new listings and manage your stuff. And the third way is with the List Perfectly extension. An extension is a software you download to your computer. Once you download that, you're able to access List Perfectly anywhere on your computer, no matter where you are. You don't have to be on the List Perfectly site. And that leads us to the fourth way you can use List Perfectly, and that is directly from your platforms. Once you do download that Chrome extension, you're going to see some blue arrows next to your listings on all your selling platforms. You can click on those to manage your inventory, to cross-post them from one platform to another. The method you decide to use, whether it's the website on the computer or phone, that extension, or right from your platforms, it's going to depend on what you need to do and the capabilities of each of those methods, because they all do different things. In today's video, I'm going to go over those first 2 options, the website on the computer and on the phone. That way we can lay the groundwork of how exactly List Perfectly works. You'll be very familiar with all of the settings and where to find everything. And then in part 2, we'll go over the Chrome extension and we'll go over how to use it right from your platforms as well. Now that we have all of those basics out of the way, let's get started with how to actually use List Perfectly. I'm at my computer now, and here is what a new List Perfectly account would look like for you. Over at the bottom right hand side, you'll see a guided tour and tips to get you started. You can go through all of these steps on your own to familiarize yourself with List Perfectly, or you can just watch the rest of this tutorial and part 2, because I'll be going through pretty much everything you see on this list in a lot of detail. And to do that, I'm going to switch over to my current account so that you can see how List Perfectly actually works once you have lots of listings created. Here on my Google homepage, I created a List Perfectly shortcut so that I can get to it easily and I don't have to input the website every time. That shortcut takes me to this page where I can see all of my listings I've ever created on List Perfectly. We are going to go over this entire page in detail here shortly, but first I do want to start off by going over the menu right here that's on the left hand side so that you can know all of your options that are available there for you. Down here there is an arrow that you can click so that your menu can stay expanded, or you can click it again to collapse it, and if you just hover over it a little bit, it'll expand on its own. I'm going to keep it expanded so that we can go over all these options here. The very first thing at the top is the List Perfectly logo. If you click on that, it is going to take you to what's known as the home page. All of these things are going to be available here on the side menu that we're going over, or they will be available down here in this little chat box. So these are just quick links for you to get to them faster, but I'm thinking the side menu is what you will be using the most often, so that's why I'm going to focus on that. But if you ever want to find a quick link to a certain page or topic, you can come to this home page and find it here on this main menu. The next item on this menu here is notifications, and here is where you'll see alerts about everything that sells on all of your platforms that you have connected. I'm going to click this X to get out of here. And speaking of connections, that is our next option right here. Here's where you're going to go to add or remove connections between List Perfectly and your selling sites. Right now, I have 3 selling sites connected: Depop, eBay, and Poshmark, but they do have all of these options down here available. All of my connections are good right now because they are green and it says active, but if you ever see a red alert here, that means something is wrong and List Perfectly isn't communicating with your selling platform. That is an issue because then you won't be able to end listings and do all of the other functions we're going to talk about. So just make sure that this is always green and active. To add a new connection, all you have to do is click on this connection wizard button. Select the platform you want to connect. I'm going to choose Mercari and click connect. Mercari is now connected to my List Perfectly, so if I had listings there and they sold and all of that, List Perfectly would alert me of all of those things. I am not currently using Mercari. I don't need this connection, so to delete it, all you have to do is click this trash button. And that's how simple and easy connections work with List Perfectly. All you have to do is make sure you're logged into your sites and use this connection wizard. Going to X out of this and move on to our next topic, which are favorites. This favorite section is basically a way for you to create a customized shortcuts menu. If you click on any of these blue options down here, it will expand and you'll see all of your options available within each of these categories. And if you notice, besides some of these, there is a start button. So that's what you're going to click to add it to your shortcuts menu up here, which is called favorites. Right here, it says add template because I added that shortcut by clicking this star. And if you want to remove this shortcut, just go ahead and click that again to remove it. The next option here on this sidebar menu is the listings option. When you click on this, it's going to expand and give you these 4 different options. I'm going to go over each one of them, but just keep in mind that you may have some of these or you may not, depending on the plan that you went with. Our very first listing option is using this express lister. And here's what that page looks like. The first thing I'll show you here is this customize option over to the right hand side. When you click on that, it's going to allow you to customize what your listing page will look like when you're listing something here on List Perfectly. I'm going to collapse this side menu right here, just so that it's not so cluttered as I'm showing you this. But here off to the left hand side is all of the information you can add to your listing page if you want. The ones that have a check mark next to it are the ones that I have on my Express listing page, and the ones that are just like this grayish color are the ones that I have unselected. If you click on it, you select it. If you click on it again, you unselect it. Once you have all of the details you want on your listing page, here at the top, you're able to rearrange them however you want. There's these 6 little dots off to the side. You click and hold and move them around. That way, the listing details are in the order that you need them, depending on how you're used to listing your items. You can also rearrange things here off to the right-hand side instead. Again, just click and hold and move things around until they are in the order you want. If you want to delete something, of course, you can use this trash can icon right here. Once you're done setting up your customized Express listing page, go ahead and click Save and Close. And then here is what it looks like. Here you will upload your images. Just click here and your file folder will open up on your computer for you to select your photos. Then you'll just add in the information that you selected to add to your listing page. Another option you have here on this Express listing page is the listing assistant, this orange button right here. To get started using this, the first thing you have to do is upload your pictures. So go ahead and click the upload button. That's going to open your file folder again. Go ahead and select the folder where you have your pictures. Select the pictures you want to add, click open. This listing assistant is basically going to use AI to create the listing for you really quick. And that listing AI is going to use the first 6 pictures that you uploaded here to determine what kind of things to add to your listing. So go ahead and rearrange these photos how you want to make sure you're giving the AI as much information as possible for them to create the accurate listing for you. For example, this tag, the size tag, is probably something you want to have in the first 6 pictures so that it knows what size your item is. Maybe the bottom sew as well so that the AI can tell what condition your item is in. So just play around with this, and maybe the more you use it, the more you'll come to know what kind of pictures are useful for the AI and which ones are not, so that you can know how to rearrange your photos. Once you're done with that part of it, go ahead and click this orange button right here. In this box that pops up, you just have to answer a few questions for the listing assistant to get to work. The first is, what kind of tone do you want your description to be written in? Click on that and you'll see the different options they have available. I'm going to go with professional. The next box here, you can add any details you want to make sure that the AI adds to your description. If you have anything to add, put that here and then click Launch Listing Assistant. And here's the listing that the assistant came up with. Here is my title. Down here you can see it only used 40 characters. The platforms I list on allow me to use 80 characters. So if I was using this, I would go in and fill it up some more. And here is what the description looks like. Just a quick brief overview of what the item is and what it looks like, and then just some features, details, and accents down here. It also caught on to how high the heel height is and added it for me right here. It added the brand for me. So basically you just go in here and add the few missing details. Of course, it's not going to tell you a price. You'll have to add that on your own. If you have a SKU attached to this item, add that here. Here's all of the different keywords that it came up with for me. That is super helpful. And seller notes are just private information for you on the back end, so you can add that if you want. So that is what the Express Lister looks like, how you can customize your listing page if you want, or use this listing assistant to create listings much faster. Now, I am an old school kind of gal still. I don't really use that much AI. As I mentioned, the title it came up with, it's good and everything, but it's not something I would use. I like something a lot more detailed, taking up all of the 80 characters that the platforms allow me to use. My descriptions are a lot more detailed. That's just the way I got used to doing things. So I do not use this Express Lister nor the listing assistant. Going to expand this menu here on the side to show you the next option on this listings tab right here, which is add listing. This is what I use to create my listings. It's just the old school way of doing it. When you click on that, a box is going to pop up, which is going to try to encourage you to use the listing assistant. As I said, I like to use my own, so I'm going to click on dismiss forever so that this box doesn't pop up again for a while. The only reason I like to use this regular listing form as opposed to the express lister option is because it allows me to use these pre-made templates that I have for almost every type of shoe I sell. I've been using these for years and I'm used to listing with them. Later on in the video, we are going to go over templates a little more, but I'm just going to show you real quickly how they work. Going to select this first template up here that is for ankle booties. Once I click on that, it's going to fill in some of these fields in this listing form. These are fields that I pre-filled previously when I created this template in the first place. The first thing we have up here is a title that is almost done. It just needs a few more things to have a complete keyword filled detailed title. Same thing with the description. It's very detailed. And all it needs is a few more pieces of text here and there to have it complete. Down here, I have all of the keywords I like to use for these type of booties. My keywords are already pre-filled right here. And also some of my shipping information is already entered here. So that's the only reason I still like this old way of listing. But if that express lister allowed me to use my pre-made templates, I'd be using that express lister instead. So hopefully List Perfectly does allow for that soon, because this listing page is pretty lengthy and it does have a lot of fields that I don't use. So it'd be nice to use that express lister and that customized listing form that I created. It is a lot shorter and it'd be a lot faster to fill out. I'm going to click on this X right here to exit out of this page, and then we're going to go back to the side menu. We went over the express lister, the regular old way of listing, which is this add listing option. The next option on this list is view listings. When you click on that, it's going to take you to the page where all your listings are. This page does bring up more menus to go over. There's menus here on the top right. There's all of these tabs here. And within each listing, there's even more options. Welcome back to this page, and I'll go over everything that's on here. First, I do want to just finish going over this side menu here. The next option right here is old catalog. And if you click on that, it's going to take you to the old version of List Perfectly. Not that long ago, List Perfectly went through a whole revamp, so their website looks a lot different than it used to. Some people are still used to the old way though, which is why they have this option here. My daughter still likes this old catalog, which is why she favored it, and that's what she uses when she comes and cross-lists items for me here. List Perfectly is going to do away with this option altogether in the near future. So maybe by the time you watch this video, this option won't even be here anymore. So I'm not even going to worry about this one. I won't even click into it to show you. Let's move on to what we talked about earlier, which is templates. When you click on this tab right here, it's going to give you two options. You can either add a template or view templates you have already created. I'm going to click on the add template option. I'll go ahead and get this menu out of the way, and here's what a listing page will look like. A regular listing page if you're not using the express lister and using a customized form. Here you'll put in your title, your description, all of the information right here on the side. You'll add your condition, your categories. These gray boxes right here, you can click to expand to add even more information such as keywords, cost of goods, price, SKU numbers. Here you'll add your shipping information, and the very last box right here is for you to add private notes. These won't be transferred to your platforms. It's just for you to track any sort of information you want to track. If you're listing very similar things like the same kind of t-shirt, shoes, or boots, chances are a lot of all of this information isn't going to change very much. It's going to be the same for all those like items. So with templates, you're able to have all of that information pre-filled already so that you can list much faster. I showed you a template earlier when we went over this add listing option right here, but here is another example. Something I list a lot of is ballet flats. So here is what my template looks like for those kind of shoes. Again, the title is almost done. I would just have to go in and add the brand name of the ballet flats I'm listing in that moment, the size, the color, the material, all of that I would add here to the title, and then it'd be complete. Down here, the description, again, I'll just add in the size, any accents. All of the ballet flats are slip-on style, so I have that already here in my description. I'll add in the type of material that particular shoe is, and down here at the bottom of all my descriptions, I like to add some keywords. All ballet flats mostly will use all of these keywords. When something doesn't really make sense, I'll go in and delete it, but for the most part, these are the kind of keywords I like to use for all ballet flats that I list. These keywords down here are there for the algorithm. They're there for SEO purposes so that my listings pop up when people do search these keywords, but they're also there to help my daughter out. As I mentioned, she helps me cross list, so these keywords tell her which item specifics to select on my eBay listings and which keywords to add in my Depop listings as well. If I keep scrolling down here in this template, I have more keywords right here. Some of my shipping information is already filled out. Most of my ballet flats are going to go into a package that is about these dimensions right here. So I already added those numbers, so I don't have to do it every time I list some ballet flats. Let's move on to the next option here under templates, which is view templates. Here are all the kind of templates I created. I do list a lot of athletic sneakers, so I have a template for that. If you watch my reseller income reports where I share the type of stuff that is selling for me, then you know that I list a lot of comfort minimalist pumps, so there I have a template for that too. Hiking shoes and hiking sport sandals, I list a lot of those in the summer. Lace up combat boots, I'm listing a lot of those right now. So you get the gist. Basically, templates help you list faster by having some of the information that never changes on your listings pre-filled already. If you do want more guidance with creating templates, you can go watch this video right here. There I explain in detail and share more tips on how to create your own templates and what exactly to put in them. But let's move on with the menu here. The next option we have is sales. This is exactly what it sounds like. This perfectly will keep track of your sales and show you all sorts of data. I'll go ahead and click on sales and analytics, and you'll see all of these charts and graphs and all sorts of information that List Perfectly has gathered from your sold listings. The numbers you see here aren't going to be accurate for me though, because I don't maintain and upkeep my sales here on List Perfectly. The idea is that every time something sells, you come here and you input this information, like the shipping cost that the buyer had to pay and the shipping cost that you had to pay. That way all of these numbers make sense. I don't do that. I use my own personalized spreadsheet. That way I have more detailed data. So I don't use this right now, but for a beginner, this would be super helpful. And for me, it is useful to at least come here and see all of my sales from all of my platforms in one place. Moving on to the next section of the menu, which is help and support. This brings up several options. The first one is contact us. If you click on that, it's going to open up this message bubble here on the right hand side. If you ever have any issues whatsoever or have any questions, you can come here to read all sorts of articles, watch video tutorials, but you can also talk to a representative directly. You'll just have to click this messages, click contact us, and from here you can start telling them what your issue is. If they can help you with an article or a video, they will. If not, you can chat live with a representative. The next one is the help center, which again, it's going to lead you to articles and videos to help you figure out the issue or problem you're having. If you click on latest version, it's going to open up in a new tab. Here's where you'll go to download the List Perfectly extension, which we're going to talk about in the next part in the next video. But here's where you will go to download, but also to update it if you ever need to. Sometimes these selling platforms make updates to their sites, and so List Perfectly will also have to make updates to their extension so that it's current and so that it works properly in conjunction with your selling platforms. So here you can always come to download the current version to make sure you have the most updated one. Going back to our menu here, the next option here is current issues. Here, List Perfectly is going to update you about anything that is currently down on their sites. Because again, when the reselling sites update their platforms, that can mess with how List Perfectly works. But they do stay on top of it pretty well. They fix issues pretty fast. But if you ever see something not working the way it needs to, you can get updated on it here so that you can know more or less what's going on and when you can expect it to get fixed. Back to our menu, the next thing here is FAQ. Here it's pretty straightforward. It's where you'll go to get the answers to some of the most common questions new List Perfectly users have. If you have questions about policies, tech issues, or anything else, you can probably find it on this page. And that brings us to this next section, which is community. Starting at the top, we do have the listing party and we have events. Both of those options are for you to access List Perfectly's live listing events. It's meant to help resellers network, share information, and help each other out. I've never joined these listing parties, so I don't know exactly how they work or what times they are, but you can find out more information about them if you'd like by exploring these two options right here. The next thing here on the community section is referral, and that is for people like me who have partnered with List Perfectly to spread the word about their service. You can click here to go see your stats, to get links and discounts for your referrals. The next tab we have here is community. Here's where you will go to connect with List Perfectly on social media, to read their blogs, to connect with other resellers, listen to their podcasts, just basically to get to know List Perfectly and their founders outside of the List Perfectly software. Next up, we have account, and the first option is my account, and here's where you will go to deal with billing, personal information, and passwords. The next option, help requests, is where you will see updates on any requests you submitted to List Perfectly. And the last option here is for you to log out of List Perfectly, and then it brings us to our last option here on the side menu, which is settings. Here you can mess with settings of the List Perfectly extension or settings of the website. Again, we'll talk about the extension in the next video, but if you click on website, here you can set your zip code so that you don't have to do it every time if a platform asks for your zip code when you're listing an item. You can also create custom footers for listings for each platform. This helps if you have different policies for each platform. Maybe you accept returns on some and not others. Maybe you want to offer bundle discounts on Poshmark and you want to add that to your Poshmark description only. You can go ahead and add that here. Whatever text you add here will be added to the bottom of your descriptions every time you cross-post your items from List Perfectly to any of these platforms. And towards the bottom of this settings page, there is a spot for you to create custom SKUs for your listings. This is a feature of List Perfectly that I don't use yet. I'm still old school and using just a black marker on a blank label to create SKUs for my items. And if you want to watch a video on how I do that, I will leave it linked for you right here. We're making progress. We went over this entire menu here. Now I'm going to go back to this listings option and click on view listings so that I can show you everything that's available right here. This is what List Perfectly used to call the catalog. I'm not sure if that's the term they still use, but basically here's where you can go to see and manage all of your listings you've ever created on List Perfectly. Going to collapse this menu on the side just so that it's not in the way. Starting here at the top left hand side, the first thing here we have is status, and here's where you can see all of the actions that List Perfectly has taken on any of your listings on your behalf. The first tab is in progress, so anything that's in progress right now that List Perfectly is doing for you would be here. I don't have anything going on right now, so that's why it says not found. Then we get to error. If something goes wrong with the connection between List Perfectly and one of your platforms, then you're going to be able to see this error right here. As you can see, some of my most common errors is that I wasn't logged into eBay, so they weren't able to delete this listing after it sold on a different platform. Same thing right here. These boots sold on Depop. They were trying to delete it from eBay for me, but I wasn't logged in at the time. Then we have, let's see here on Depop as well, I wasn't logged in. They weren't able to find this item on Depop for me for one reason or another. These errors don't happen too often, but it is always a good idea to check on this at least once a day. I try to check this a few times a day, but for sure at the end of the night, I make sure that there aren't any sold listings that didn't get deleted off of other platforms for one reason or another. The last tab here is the completed tab, so these are all the actions that were successful. These flats sold on Poshmark, so they deleted it from eBay and from Depop for me. I'll go ahead and click on this X to close down this window, and let's move on to the next thing we're going to talk about, which is connections, but this is the same option that we talked about previously. This menu right here on the side also had connections right here, so that is the same thing. We're going to skip that. Then we have this CSV. This is what you're going to use to download your listings as a spreadsheet kind of thing. If you ever want to have a record of all the listings you have, or if you want to upload them to a new site of some sort outside of List Perfectly, you can click this CSV button. It's going to open up a new tab where you can use these filters to tell List Perfectly which listings you want to download, and here you'll click download CSV to get that file. Now we get to this customize option. I love that List Perfectly gives us lots of different options to customize things to meet our needs. This one right here is for the dashboard. Down here where you see your pictures, your title, and all of these things down here, that's what this customize button is for. When you click on it, it's going to bring up a box for you to select the type of information you want to see on your dashboard. You may want all of this information to show up or just some of it. For me, the only information I want to see on my dashboard is the price, the SKU number, the platforms where my items are listed, the last time the listings were updated, when they were created, and any personal notes. Those are the only ones I have checked off because that's the only information I want to see on my dashboard. Once you do select the information you want to see, on the right hand side, you can arrange the information so that the columns show up in the way you want them to. If you select an option, you can use these arrows to move it around. And once you're done organizing all of this how you like, you can click save. Your dashboard should look exactly like you customized it using those arrows. My images show up first, then my title, then my actions, then my SKU price, and everything else. Let's move on to the next option, which is this blue button that says bulk edit. When you click on this, it's going to allow you to make quick changes to your listings right from this dashboard right here. The quick changes you can make is going to depend on how you customized your dashboard and which columns you have set up to show up here for you. For me, I can quickly edit titles of listings. I can edit my SKU numbers. I can edit my price, and I can also edit some of my platform information here. When you're done making your quick edits, go ahead and click save. Now we're going to move on to these 7 tabs that are right underneath. All the listings you've ever created on List Perfectly can be found on this first tab that says all. And all of those listings are organized into these next few tabs. The first tab is active. So these are the listings that are live on one or more of your platforms right now. Drafts are listings that are only on List Perfectly for the moment. You haven't cross-posted these items yet. And then we have unlisted, which is basically the same thing. These are items that are only on List Perfectly that you haven't cross-posted to any outside platform. Then we have this out of stock tab. And I guess this applies more to sellers who sell multiple of the same exact thing. And then we have sold items, and this is basically where you can see all of your items that have sold along with any details you choose to put here. So I could come in here and put in my cost of goods, my fees, my sold price, so that it tracks all this in this sales and analytics tab. But as I said, I don't use that, so I just leave this blank. And then we get to this last tab, which is issues. And here's where List Perfectly will put any listings that have complications come up. For example, I have this teddy bear necklace and earring set that was listed on Mercari, but now the item ID is not matching up. Having platform IDs for your items updated on List Perfectly is very important, because that's how List Perfectly is able to delist your inventory and manage your listings for you. But we are going to talk about that more in detail in part 2. When we create listings and we cross-post them. I'm not using Mercari anymore, so I'm not worried about this issue. That's why I haven't fixed the item ID to get rid of this red alert. Going to go back to this all tab and keep moving down the line. The next thing we have here is this search bar. Here you can put any keywords, any SKU numbers, anything that is in your title or description to pull up those specific listings. These next two check boxes right here is just giving you the ability to customize your dashboard even more. You want to hide your drafts or your sold listings from your all listings tab. You can click either one of those two right here. This down arrow right here is for you to select how many listings you want to see per page. You can choose any of these numbers. I have it set to 100 so that it shows me 100 listings on my dashboard right here at once. You can also use these arrows to move on to the next page. And these last two buttons on this row right here are even more customizing options. Right now, I have my dashboard set up to show it in what they call catalog mode. So that's what we see right here. But if you click the button right next to it that are like tiles, it's going to show it in tile mode. So your listings will show up kind of similar to how they would on Poshmark or Depop, eBay, those kind of platforms. You can see your title, you can see where your listing is listed, quantity, SKU number, when you created it, the price, and you can take actions on your listings by clicking this down arrow right here. This view is pretty recent. I'm not used to this yet, so I like to keep it on catalog mode, which is the old way List Perfectly works. We've gotten to the last little bit here of List Perfectly, which is these individual columns and their individual settings. The first column here is just for you to select your listings. You can select all of them at once, all the ones that are on this page. I have mine set to 100 up here on the per page, so that's how many it's selected. You can also select a few individual ones. This is useful for when you want to cross post a lot of items at once or make bulk edits using these action buttons right here. Remember, your dashboard is going to look different depending on how you decided to customize yours. But for me, the next thing I have here are my images. Then I have my title. Next up, I have my action buttons, which we're going to get back to. Then I have my SKUs, and then I have my prices. And notice that some of these columns do have a little search box right below them. These are useful to help you filter and find a listing that has a specific word in the title, that has a specific SKU or a price. The next column for me is platforms, and when you click on that option, it's going to bring up a box for you to filter your listings depending on where they are listed or where they're not. You can bring up listings that are on eBay or not on eBay, listings that are on Poshmark right now or that are not on Poshmark, listings that are sold or not sold. Just make your selections there, and then List Perfectly will filter them out for you. The next column I have set up on my dashboard is updated. The date shown here is the last time I made a change to each of these listings on List Perfectly. The next column is created, and these dates are when the listing was originally created on List Perfectly. And then my final column is notes, which are just private notes that I use from time to time here on List Perfectly. One more thing I want to show you before we move on to these action buttons is that aside from these filter options, some of these columns will also have a sorting option. With this title column, for example, when you click on the word title, you'll get these three options. You can organize your titles in ABC order from A to Z by clicking on ascending, or you can organize them from Z to A by clicking on descending. And if you want to ignore that and clear everything back to the way it was, click on clear sort. You can do that with your SKU numbers and with your price as well. You can organize them by ascending or descending. The updated column and the created column have those same options. If you ever want to organize your listings by when you created them, you can do that here. But also this created column does have a calendar option as well. So you can click on this and input a date range if you want to see listings from a specific time period. Now let's move on to these action buttons right here. I am going to be using these action buttons a lot more in part 2 when we actually create listings and list them to other platforms, but I want to give you a quick overview right now. First up, when you click on these interlocking arrows right here, it's going to bring up your cross-listing options. I click those arrows on just one item, so it says one item selected. But if I click this X right here and go back and select a few listings instead, and then click those interlocking arrows, now I can see my options for all of the items I selected, which was 3 of them. And here are the different actions you can take with the listings you selected. First, you can copy, which is literally what it sounds like. You're going to copy these listings from List Perfectly to other platforms. And this end listing option right here is going to be useful for you if the List Perfectly plan you went with doesn't have the option to automatically delete listings for you. In that case, you're going to have to do it manually, and this is the option you will use to do that. The next action you can take is to update your listings. If you made changes to your listings on List Perfectly and now you want to transfer those changes over to your platforms, you're going to click on this, and then you'll have these options right here. You can either update all your listing details, or you can use these checkboxes to update only some of the details. Lastly, this little box here that says select to mark as sold is going to be used in conjunction with this end listing option. If you want to end a listing on your selling platforms because you just don't want it to be there anymore, then you don't have to check this box. But if you want to end your listings on a platform because it actually has sold, that's when you will check this box. That way it can be marked as sold on your List Perfectly catalog as well. And let me show you real quick what taking some of these actions is going to look like. If I wanted to go ahead and copy the listings I selected, which is 3 items, to my selling platforms, first I would select the selling platforms I want to copy them to. I'll select eBay and Depop for now, and then I will select this copy option right here. That is going to prompt List Perfectly to open up new tabs, and then it will automatically start transferring my listing, my title, my descriptions, my images, and any other information that I added on List Perfectly to the selling platforms that I just selected. When I want to end listings, first I select the platforms where I want those listings to be ended, and then I click on end listing, which I'm not going to do that right now because I still want these listings up on these platforms. So as you see, pretty simple and straightforward. I'm going to X out of this, go ahead and deselect these listings and move on to the next action in these little buttons right here, which is this pencil icon. When you click on this, it's going to bring up the listing here on List Perfectly so that you can go in and make edits. You can change your images, you can move them around, you can edit them, brighten them up, remove backgrounds, and all sorts of things. You can come here to edit your title, your description, or anything else. When you're done, just click save and close. And the next button right here is the copy option. This right here is one of my favorite things about List Perfectly because it's going to make exact copies of listings for you. Oftentimes, I'm listing the same brands and the same styles or very similar brands and styles. Like I mentioned earlier, I sell a lot of ballet flats. So when I need to create a new listing, instead of starting from scratch, I'll just come here to the search bar, type in a few keywords like brown ballet flats. I look for some flats that look very similar to the ones I'm currently listing. I'll delete all of these pictures and add the new ones. And then I'll go through this listing page and change anything that needs to be changed, which is usually just a few things. Maybe the brand name, sometimes the size. Down here in this section, the SKU number will definitely be different. Sometimes the price will be different, and I will have to switch up my shipping weight. But it's just going to be a few quick changes, and I can have my listing done for these new ballet flats in like a minute or a minute and a half tops. Clicking this X right here to exit out of this page, and I'm going to click on clear all right here so that List Perfectly it's not showing me just the ballet flats. And the next button we have right here is for templates. Again, if you're listing a lot of these kind of shoes and you want to go ahead and create your template instead of starting a template from scratch, you can click this right here. That's going to open up the template page for you. You can go ahead and delete things that will change in the future. If I was listing ballet flats, maybe they won't be flawed and they won't be J. Crew brand, so I'll delete that. The size will probably be different, so will the color, so maybe I'll delete that. So you get the gist of it. Delete everything that's going to change for future listings and keep all of the information that will remain the same. Then click save and exit so that you have this template for next time. Clicking cancel for now, and the next button we have here is this page with the arrow. This right here is going to send this listing's information to your sales analytics dashboard here on List Perfectly, which I mentioned earlier. I don't use their sales analytics, so we'll just gloss right over that. The last option here is this delete option. If you ever want to delete a listing altogether from List Perfectly, go ahead and click on that. Now we're going to talk about how to use List Perfectly right from your phone, which is going to be very brief. It is very similar to how it works on a computer. It's just the buttons are in different places, so that's the only thing I'll be showing you here. But before we jump into that, I want to talk about two very important things you need to know about using List Perfectly on your phone. The first thing is that sadly, you cannot cross-post items from your phone from List Perfectly to other platforms or from platform to platform. That cross-posting option is only available wherever you can download that extension. So on most laptops, tablets, and definitely on most computers, you can download that Chrome extension and then you can do the cross-posting. Phones don't have that capability, so you're not able to cross-post items. All you can do is add new listings, edit listings, and do other management type things. The second thing is that List Perfectly does not have an actual app yet. So in order to use it on your phone, you're going to have to go to your browser, your internet browser that you have on your phone. Go to listperfectly.com, and then you're able to log in with your details there. And when you're logged in, here is what the page should look like. At the very bottom is where we'll find all of the different tabs to get to all of the different settings we talked about before when we were on the computer. On the bottom left, we have that List Perfectly logo that says home. That's going to lead you to all of those quick links in case you have to find something really quick. That is where you can go. Then we have the Express Lister, which we talked about earlier. It's going to work exactly the same here. You will upload your images, fill out your listing description, or you can click that orange button to use that listing assistant so that they can use that AI capability to create your listing for you. Or if you're old school like me, then you're going to click that next tab that says add listing, and you can start a listing from scratch right here. First, you'll select your template up at the top, then you'll add your pictures from here, and you'll scroll down down, fill in all of the missing details, and then you'll click Save and New if you want to start a new listing, or Save and Preview if you want to exit out of here. That bell icon that says notifications is where you will see everything that has sold for you across all your platforms that you have linked up with List Perfectly. And then the last thing here is those 3 lines that says menu. This is kind of the equivalent to that sidebar menu we went over in detail when we were on the computer. All of the things that we talked about there you can find here too. And up at the top there are those tabs where you can see all of your listings, or just your active listings, or just your drafts. If you made it this far into the video, then now you should be well equipped to get started using List Perfectly to not only cross-post your items, but also to manage your inventory. Make sure you're subscribed so that you get a notification when I upload part 2. In that part, we are going to create listings from scratch. I'll show you how to use List Perfectly to share your Poshmark closet on autopilot, and how to cross-post items from platform to platform, or from List Perfectly to other platforms. We'll talk about all of that in a lot more detail. Thanks so much for watching today, and I'll see you in the next one.